How mitaki yapi, chante washte nape chuzapelo, tatanka wajila emachi yapi. I greet you all and I welcome you all to this Anpetu Wi Dialogue. I greet you with a good heart and an open hand. My Lakota name is Wonbo Tatanka Wajila. It is the one spirit of the bull that all the buffalo come from. And I am the general manager of the Sage Development Authority, which is a duly formed Section 17, started by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. So we are an entity of the tribe charged with building the tribe's first wind farm. That's a 235 megawatt wind farm, roughly 60 turbines here at home for sale for commercial power. The goal of that is to build a tribal utility that serves our people here at home from that revenue so that we can build our own systems and manage our own systems here at home. So that means building renewable energy systems for all of our communities and providing a cheaper source of power so that our people have more choice in what to do with the resources that we have. So I want to thank you all for taking the time and coming on to see us. We do have with us 3 of the chairmen that has signed on to be, and we want to give our condolences and our best wishes to, first off, Charles Murphy. Charlie Murphy has been a long time serving chairman for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. He's a 6-term chairman, and his sister passed away earlier this week. If you didn't read the news or know the news, his sister is LaDonna Brave Bull Allard. And LaDonna, as you know or don't know, for any of you, was matriarch 1, historian, teacher, educator, aunt, mother, grandmother. And when you met LaDonna and visited LaDonna, she knew about your family. So she was always educating, teaching, and she was always wanting people to be better. So I just want to say that much about LaDonna and a moment for her life here. And LaDonna is Charlie Murphy's sister. So he is getting ready for her funeral and wake services, which will be in the next few days. And that's why he didn't join us. And our best wishes and prayers go out to him, his family, and everyone that has had an impact and felt, what LaDonna has worked for here at Standing Rock. And moreover, our fight for clean water, which brings us to being here with you during this talk. So we've had fortunate to have participation from the chairmen that are here with us. We have the present chairman, which is Chairman Mike Faith. He has served from 2017 to present, and before him was Charlie, and no, it was Dave, my bad, was Chairman Archambault, and then there was Charlie, then there was Ron, his horse's thunder, who's my brother, full disclosure, and before him was Charlie, and then I will need to mention our other previous chairman, Jesse J. Taken Alive, who we lost this year to COVID, him and his wife. Jay was one of the longest serving councilmen for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe over a 24-year service period. So with that being said, I'd like to open for introductions, to give the chairman an opportunity to introduce themselves, and we'll get into the discussion about renewable energy here at Standing Rock. And I'll start off with our current serving chairman, Chairman Faith. How, Mike?
Oh,
Good to see you.
First of all, Joe and everybody, good to see everybody. Abeta washter, good afternoon, good day. Once we get going here, Joe, I'm going to run back and forth because we got a DAPO meeting going on right now, and it's going to be live on air. I got to get a few things put out on that, clarifications first of all, and then we'll go from there. But is Chairman Murphy on board yet?
Chairman Murphy won't make it with us today. He's getting ready for his sister's funeral and
Yes,
services.
okay, that's understandable. Yep. You did say some really kind words about her, and I think we all appreciate you doing that for us. We also sent out a statement, from all the tribe here, giving our condolences to that family and friends. So again, like I said, I'm going back and forth here, so please, I apologize. Chairman, how you doing? Dave, Ron, good to see you. I see Ron made it in without taking off tires on the road. And I'm just teasing. Anyway, I get a call from our neighbor in that little trailer house. He's pretty upset. But other than that, Joe, and I just doing some small talk here. Again, I appreciate you allowing us some time to talk about this important venture into the future. It's here, and I'll say this again, the former chairmans all supported it one way or the other, but more so, Chairman Archambault pushed it hard. And as he went out, I think we continue to follow in his footsteps to look at harnessing the wind turbines, the solar, and I think we talked about the thermal energy. So again, it's also important to us. So before he left, he was pushing hard in that. And again, it's not without ups and downs from all of us, from the former chairmans to now. We run into little roadblocks here and there, or we run into some type of resistance. And we're kind of, I think, being a chairman, you also being a former council person, understand that, if we don't get the true statement out there, what's going on, people seem to have, oh, they're doing this behind our back, or they're doing this and getting paid. And it's really false, because every one of us on today, our hearts are with the people, and we want Standing Rock, the best for Standing Rock and the future generations to come. It is what it is. Young Dave mentioned in the past, it's here. Why not use it? Ron, same thing. Chairman Murphy, same thing. All the chairmen said it. And it's actually trying to become reality. You're part of that. But again, this started way, way back. And again, it seems to pick up momentum, then a drop. And again, as chairmans come and go, like I said, we're just trying to continue pushing hard, following up what Chairman Archambault started in heavy. He pushed it hard. The other chairmans, it was there. We put set aside land quite some time ago. Ron, Chairman Murphy, we did right along Highway 12, big chunks of land going towards Wakpala. But again, it went someplace on the wayside. So again, Chairman Archambault just picked it up and decided we're going to push hard on it. And I to this day, I just can't thank him enough for that. Chairman of Sources Thunder, same thing. I think we all want to see success, but when you're sitting in a political climate and people don't see that, and when I talk about this, I'm going off track a little bit, but Standing Rock Farms, another resource that we can develop in using our own water, our water rights, our own land, to feed our people. Food sovereignty is going to be an issue in the future here shortly. It is now, and we should be, and again, former chairman worked on that, but it gets pushed by programs, and then all of a sudden, different councils come on, different chairmans, and maybe, unfortunately, different types of needs or ideas. But these ones here need not be forgotten. It needs to be pushed forward with our our program, the project you are now coordinating with your board of directors. It's so important. So I'm gonna let it go at that, and then I know I took off, and these guys are
Okay,
yeah yeah.
Mike.
Again, guys, it's so good to see you. I think what we need to do here, and again, we'll invite Murphy also, but let's have supper here one of these nights up at Prairie Nights, and invite a few people, maybe Joe and a few other interest, maybe some people from the state that can help us, federal, if they can travel. Let's reminisce a little bit and see if we can continue pushing for a stronger Standing Rock and a better tomorrow for our young ones and their young ones yet to come.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. And you know, talking about what started previous to you, it's always to the current chairman to make those things reality. And what you did in your leadership to get the Section 17 that was started, the work before brought to you to get it done, you know, to make it a reality, to help the council, to help the regulatory systems to be set up so that this Section 17, this board could be in place to move this project forward is no small feat. So my hat's off to you and the leadership of your team and administration to make this, you know, what it is that we're talking about today. So Lami Aplo, and you know, I won't sell Buffalo Soldier short. Akichita, Tanka Akichita. That's your name, our Lakota name. So thanks to you. I'll pass it off to Chairman Archambault, and I'm proud to say, just briefly here, is that I got fortunate to serve with all these men. So,
and don't be saying you got stories all about every one of us either. Guys, you're gonna have to excuse me. I gotta start another meeting and I'll be right back.
All right, Mike.
Dave, Ron, thank you for being on. I'll be right back.
Howdy.
No, Tokala Hitika Machapin, I share Joshua. I just want to thank you, Joe, for setting this up, and you know, I think both Ron and I can relate to what Mike's dealing with. You know, on a daily basis, they have multiple things, many balls in the air that you have to try to juggle and keep afloat. So I always say it's hard to put yourself in somebody's shoes unless you do it yourself. And so I can relate to Chairman Faith and him having to go back and forth. And you know, I think each and every one of us that ran for office, whether it's for council or for chairman, especially chairman, we would never did it if we didn't want the best for our nation. And coming together today is really meaningful. It pulls together a collective interest and a collective experience to continue an effort to help the people of Standing Rock. And I had a picture of when Chairman Faith got elected. I have a picture of Chairman His Horses Thunder, Chairman Murphy, myself, Chairman Taken Live.
Yeah.
All of us sitting there, and at the inauguration with Chairman Faith, 5 chairmen, and it's pretty amazing to look at the wealth of knowledge and the big hearts that are there for the nation. And so I'm just happy to be here. I'm honored to be here, and I'm thankful for you setting this up. And I do think that when I was not reelected, I always wanted to start a former chairman club with not just Standing Rock, but with everybody, because there's so many stories that you can share, and you can ideas that you can take to fruition. And this whole SAGE Section 17 corporation is a way for tribal nations to institutionalize ideas, institutionalize efforts, and continue progress without interference from political interests. So keeping it going is important, keeping ideas flowing regardless of politics. We still got to keep things happening. So again, I'm just honored to be here, and that's That's enough.
Thank you, Chairman. It's important what you're saying there. Particularly, it would be great to get all the chairmen in a room and record, 10 hours of talking. It's where we've been, so we know where we're going. And a lot of that in this discussion, I'm looking forward to, and thank you for being a part of this. Chairman, is Horses Thunder?
Well, little brother, he did tell you earlier that I'm his brother. I'm his older brother, so he has to listen to me.
I do. Now I'm gonna mute you. No, just kidding.
Well, I want to thank you for inviting us to come and speak. But as you said earlier, I wanted to say condolences to Adonna's family first. Second, to G. Takenlife's family as well too. COVID took him and his wife within a week's time, and I know that their family is suffering now because of that loss. And actually, we as a nation, Standing Rock Sioux Nation, suffers as a whole from those losses. There were people who were in the forefront, whether it be Ladonna at the Cannonball River, whether it's Jay in the halls of Congress. We're going to miss them. We're going to miss their leadership. And we're going to go forward. And this is one way we can go forward. And that is looking to the future generations of what we can leave behind for them. And in this sense, we're talking about climate change and making a better future for them in terms of not being dependent on oil or fossil fuels, and creating a revenue stream, if you will, from wind energy, so that we can take care of other needs for our families, whether that be providing electricity for their homes, or building better homes that are more energy efficient is something we need to take a look at as well too. And if we can, this is a step in that direction. And each one of us, Dave, Mike, Charlie, Jay, as chairman, have looked at wind energy development.
Mhm.
And for whatever reasons in the past, we couldn't get it off the ground. There are many obstacles in terms of trying to develop wind energy on reservations. One of the biggest hurdles, if you will, is having the energy companies, electric companies, utilizing all the transmission lines that are available now. And so one of the biggest hurdles we had to take a look at was, this is my phone going off. I thought I had it on mute.
I know I get to mute you somehow. No, just kidding.
Anyways, one of the biggest hurdles that in terms of why it never was developed before was the transmission lines, that the fossil fuel companies have those transmission lines tied up, and they were always telling us that if you develop a wind energy farm, you're going to have to tie into one of these. And basically all the space is already leased out to those companies, coal-fired generation plants that generate electricity. So that's still, but that is also still a hurdle. But as time goes on, and more people in this country and the world start to see the benefits of wind energy, alternative energy, that those transmission lines are being built, one, and two, the rural electric cooperatives, if you will, start to see the benefits of buying wind generated electricity. Plus today you're also seeing some of those coal-fired generation plants being shut down because they don't meet emission standards. So as more of them go offline, then there'll be room, if you will, for wind generated electricity to take its place. And we want to be right there, ready to go. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, your response there, and it leads into the first set of questions. During your term, Dave and I were both serving as councilmen at that time. We did put out an RFP, and we had multiple wind developers come to Standing Rock to pitch what would be a benefit to us. Was there anything in particular you recall in your term, challenges and or efforts that blocked the way or made it a time for us to pause and say, maybe this isn't the right move for us right now?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles, if you will, again, I mentioned this transmission line, but besides that, the other hurdle is this: just as councilmen who were serving during my term, you know that sometimes all the council itself can't agree. Some of them don't. Some of them don't agree. I think that's changed. Almost every council member who sits on the current council today understands the necessity for wind generation in the future. But in the past, you couldn't always get tribal council people to agree that that's where we should expend our resources or our energy, if you will. But part of tribal council's reluctance in the past to partner with outside companies, entities who wanted to develop wind energy farms on the reservation simply this, is that those companies, those partnerships were really about profit making for that company.
Mm.
And not about taking those revenues and developing the homes, if you will, on the reservation. Not about creating a revenue stream for the tribe, so tribe could help put up solar panels at individuals' homes or in our community centers. They were all about coming in, using our land, and then shipping off the electricity and taking those profits from it and putting it in their pockets. And so I understand the tribal council's reluctance at the time to partner with these companies because, again, they were all about profit generation for themselves. I think Sage Development Corporation, on the other hand, is different in terms of the revenues, the profit coming from it aren't going to leave the reservation and go off and line some rich person's pocket who had the money to build a farm again. It's about using the revenues to better the standing of the nation. And that's the biggest difference. So that hurdle, this tribal council doesn't have to deal with. That hurdle isn't there. So that's the difference between today's talking about the Sage Development Corporation and in the past with outsiders coming in and saying, we can do this for you.
Thank you, Chairman. That's an important point. As the Section 17, managing this for the tribe, we are the ones that are developing the relationships with developers, managing the asset for the tribe, by the tribe, and being that buffer to ensure that we're getting the best deal that we can and ensuring that there's an equity stake for Sage, for the tribe, in each of these negotiations, that we have a level of ownership that will eventually lead to a majority level of ownership in the project as the years go on and the investment are paid off. One thing I'd like the audience to know more broadly is that Sage Development is not just looking to build a wind farm. The revenues from Sage Development, of course, the tribe will have a revenue stream that comes to it to serve the purposes that it does for our people. But Sage Development in a way will be able to build other assets, housing development assets, and commercial and finance infrastructure for our people through the terms of a credit union, tourism, so that we tell our own story. These are things that are talked about by our board in developing a broader view of what benefits would serve us best here at home. And it's great to have you guys on the call because those are some of the things that I think we can hear from you as well moving forward. Not just that how renewable energy will benefit us, but what are the things that we see, through your lens as chairman, would benefit our nation to develop pointedly as we move forward, things that we can invest in as Sage Development that would have an impact for our folks here at home. Dave?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that when we first started looking at renewable energy, and my interest came when Ron was the chairman and I was on tribal council with you, Joe. and we look at how the developers were coming to propose to build out renewable energy projects for us, and the interest lied with them because they would profit immensely, and we would be land lease owners. We own the land, so we lease the land to them, and the revenue coming from that was, let's say if it was a 200 or even 100 megawatt project, the income that would come to the tribe would be the land lease income, which at that time it seemed like a lot and it was attractive, but when you compare it to the amount of money that you would generate if you were the owner of the project. So the $800,000 land lease income sounded good at that time. But then when you realize that annually, the owners of the project, not the land leasers, would earn around 15 to 20 million a year. We need to start looking at how we could be owners of projects, not the leasers of our land, and get the crumbs, but get the lion's share. And sometimes it may take time to evolve into the 100% owner of a project. But at that time, when Ron is absolutely right, the council didn't have an appetite to give ownership of a resource that is generated within our lands. And I just see there's so much potential when you become the owner to develop other projects, like the sustainable food projects that the tribe can do, the sustainable housing projects, that housing, and I would say Ron and Mike and Charlie would agree that housing is a major issue, a major concern for any chairman. I know in my experience that I had on a daily basis somebody coming to the office seeking housing or housing assistance, and the structures that are in place today, federal HUD housing, are inefficient. They don't last, and housing is a good indicator for economic development, but for our economy. But when it's subsidized by the government, we fall under the rules. So we should be looking at ways to develop net zero housing, passive housing that doesn't require a lot of energy to cool. It doesn't require a lot of energy to heat. Those are sustainable projects that can benefit future generations. And you have energy projects, whether it's solar, geothermal. So moving in this direction really helps a nation become self-sustainable. We could produce our own food, whether it's hydroponics or aquaponics, or developing our bison herd for our culture's protein, getting a house for the younger generations to actually afford and realize the benefit of owning a home. So those are really things that this can transcend into when we are the owner of a major project, like infrastructure project like wind. Those resources, then it could even trans into offering better health care for all our membership on and off the reservation. So it's a start, and you can just imagine if I asked Chairman Faith and I asked Chairman His Horses Thunder or Chairman Murphy, what would you love to see in the future? Good health, safe environment, and sustainable without the dependency of governments. And then the tribe could truly do what it's supposed to do, and that is the regulatory authority, instead of trying to address every issue, every concern that comes across our desks.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman His Horses Thunder?
You're talking about how to utilize the funds to, you're gonna have that question.
What developments do you see through your lens, as experienced chairman, would benefit our folks pointedly?
Well, I think Dave did a good job in answering that. The first and foremost thing is home ownership. That if you're gonna build a nation, you have to have people own their own homes. One of the worst things that's ever happened to tribes. So our families were really self-sufficient. When they lived on the land.
Right.
And in order to get us off the land, how'd they do that? They said, we're going to give you a better house. You got to move into the community. And so some people did. But I remember as a child, before first grade, living out in the country. Our houses weren't the greatest houses, but they were houses that we built that we took care of. And when we were there in our own homes, we lived off the land. We had farms. Many people have cattle, livestock. But it's when they moved us into these little communities, then we lost our connection to the land. And as soon as you lose your connection to the land, there's somebody else there who's non-Indian who leased your land and made money off your land, running large cattle herds, farming the land. So there became a huge disconnect amongst our people and our land. And so when they put us in these little houses and the communities, they also did this. They destroyed the bonds amongst our families because they decided who was going to live next to you. You didn't live next to your relative. You lived next to somebody you didn't know, or maybe your family didn't get along for generations. So we started to lose our connection with our families as well too. So I really see the idea of home ownership getting away from HUD houses, which are substandard houses, use all kinds of energy, as one of the key future developments to making our nation very strong. So Dave's right on the mark when he talks about home ownership and the development of better homes than the cracker boxes that HUD builds for us. They're built by the lowest bidder, and they're going to make the maximum profit off of bidding on those houses by using substandard materials. And so home ownership becomes key. And so how do you use that? Would be one of the ways in which we use the revenues is to take a look at building better homes on people's land, on their own land, instead of in the little communities, and going back to home ownership, so they take pride in the houses that they live in. When they start to take pride in their homes, and you get to decide who your neighbor is, you're going to be your relative, then you build a stronger bond with your family. And it's family that takes care of family. It really is. And they wouldn't be coming then to tribal chairman or tribal council member on a daily basis saying, I need your help, whereas they would depend on families. So housing development becomes very, very key. Likewise, putting resources in place of better utilization of the land. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I see Chairman Faith has joined us again, and so I'll leave some time for him to respond to that as well.
Thank you, Chairman of Sources Thunder. The tribe has worked on a strategic plan, chairman after chairman, administration after administration, and each time it refines and it adjusts. And I know housing is definitely on that. And we work with, the tribe as an entity of the tribe to parallel our efforts, to enhance those efforts. So this is a great discussion in this context because it shows the parallels that we've all work towards, and really that goes back to making a better home for our people, our relatives, our families. Chairman Faith, the pointed discussion was, what efforts would you like to see developed here at home to make a pointed difference in our people's lives? Anything in particular, developments? Was there something that came across that wasn't a good idea then that may be a good idea now? What are your thoughts? I think your mute is on, Chairman Faith.
Yeah, okay, Joe.
All right.
Again, I'm just going to hit on what both chairmen are talking about, living off of the land, Mother Earth, and Chimaka, Grandmother Earth. She has a lot to offer to us. The air, the land, the water, the plants, the four-legged. So again, getting back in time, but yet going into the future, using those for a better way of life and less dependency. Again, I'll hit on just a few, and they all will probably agree with me. Education, housing, infrastructure, water improvement, water development, in developing our own natural resources that are around us as we walk outside into the future. So the less dependency is there. When they strip mine all these lands and reclaim them, it's not a good thing. But to the people that are doing it, in their way, they think they're doing a good job when they restructure the grass and replant. To me, you took out a lot of the heart of Unchi. You're stripping her of her inners, and again, you're going to start seeing in the future here that response of small tremors and stuff. But I would like to see just a better way of life for all. And again, strategic planning. We all done it. We're all a part of that. Reaching out to 25 years, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing in stone, but we want to be independent. We want to be not dependent on the federal government, state, county. We want to have our own bank. We want to have our own housing, healthcare. Again, so reaching out, I think it's not just one that you can identify. There's the need is so many within our structure, within a country itself, our language, our culture, our song and dance, in producing our own products out there. So again, by asking for one, it's pretty tough to do that because the need is so broad. But again, touching on utilizing Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth, to support us in that area. But we also have to watch it because right now, climate change is upon us. I mean, if some of these former chairmen could tell you that they're seeing things that are happening out there with movement of wildlife. Different things are happening out there. If you go just north here, Porcupine, mud flats, up by Cannonball, mud flats. So it kind of repeats itself with the mismanagement of the Missouri. But again, that's so important to us. That's like everybody says, Mini Wachoni.
Oh.
Mini Wachoni, water is life. And that's so much part of our building of our resources. It plays the key role in everything. Without, we can have the best wind turbine, solar systems around. If you're noticing that a lot of these climate, the winters are getting different, the springs, the summers, it comes into the drought situations. With that, we lose water. So again, it does have a climate change has a big play in this. Yes, we might be able to, in the future, have our goals met as far as solar and wind and thermal, but if we don't take care of Unchimaka, Mother Nature, Grandmother Earth, we may know for not. So we all have to do our part in that. But again, getting back to your question, there's a lot of them, and again, reaching out there for self-sufficiency. Going back, using our own land, our own resources to benefit the young ones, the Takojas, the grandchildren, their grandchildren, utilize that resource for a better tomorrow for them. So I'll leave it with that. I don't know if I answered because I have a tendency to take off there, but
I think we all do. Give us the mic and it's about a 10-minute run. One thing I want to touch on, a couple things you said, Mike.
This goes out to you guys, not me.
That's me. Speak for myself. A couple things you touched on there is the kids and, you know, building this future for them. And I just want to let the audience know, because we got a comment from the middle school that the kids are watching this, which is great. And I, as SAGE, have started having discussions with the career, technical, and education committees from the middle school, high school, and college to start building the programs that are going to be necessary so our kids become, you know, have the math and engineering skills, so that when the wind farm is up and running and we're running our own utility, that they can go right into these jobs. You know, the business administration degrees that we already have. We have quite a great entrepreneurial program at the college now, but bolstering the capacity to teach administrative departments that, you know, will support our efforts moving forward. So thank the kids at the middle school for watching, because we're doing this for you. And your input and what you want out of your community is always a benefit for us to hear. When we know what you want, then we know what we need to build to make your lives better. And that's our goal entirely. And another thing about the land, THPO, our Tribal Historic Preservation Office, you know, has gone out and surveyed the sites where we're putting the turbines at. And we've moved quite a few of them because they were located on sacred sites. So we're in the process of moving those again, adjusting them again, and THPO will go out there and do another look. And one thing that's been a great benefit is that, you know, we've discovered more locations out there so that we can have more to, you know, there'll be more for our future generations to have as a resource spiritually when they get a dream to go to a place. Those places will still exist. You know, those connections that we have to the earth and to the land that sustained us for all these centuries and thousands of years will continue to be. That's what we're doing as SAGE to protect that. One question, Chairman Faith, I know you're busy, but is that what would you like to see in our relationships with federal agencies change? Do you feel like there's elements of jurisdiction that could be altered to benefit us better? Like are we being held back in ways?
Joe, you know, again, thank you, because and I think these other ones can't wait to get on that too, because they need to allow us to be a government. They, you know, the government to government relationship here is a must. We're recognized by treaty, and less regulatory on us and support us in developing our resources for the new generations to come. Who better knows what can be done within our boundaries than ourselves? Again, the bottom line is the federal government needs to allow the tribal government to excel within itself. Instead of being bogged down by EPA and other areas of enforcement, be understanding, allow us, come out here and see what we're trying to do, and be not so regulated. Be understanding, nation to nation, government to government. The new word nowadays isn't government to government, it's down here, it's nation to nation. So again, please, you know, that I would like to see them be more understanding of how we want to be self-sufficient and be less regulatory. You know, we've been here way before the Columbus days. So, you know, we lived off the land, we lived off the water, the air, the sun. That was part of us right there. That was our existence. So allow us to take care of ourselves in a good way, because sometimes regulations will stop. If you give a regulation to us 5 or us 4, we'd all probably come out with some different opinion on it, how it should be. So when it starts coming down to the tribe on that level, guess what? We want to go to A to Z to complete something. We end up getting bogged down by heavy regulations and we know what we want. Let us do what we know that can help our future generations to come.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, the source is thunder. Silence is golden. The mute is on. Mom's gonna get after me. That's what's gonna happen. Brother, your mute button's on.
Relationship with federal governments and agencies, and how can that be improved? Well, it really goes back. Chairman Faith said something which is poignant, and that is that there are treaties between our nation and the United States, and it's the honoring of those treaties which is the most important. Some of the federal agencies don't always understand that. They're so busy just regulating, and treaties basically say that we're independent nations. It wasn't until later on that the United States Supreme Court said we're domestic dependent nations, is the terminology that they use, domestic dependent nations. And they've used that to chip away at our sovereignty. That is, our ability to make our own laws and be governed by our own laws. They've also chipped away at our ability to govern other people within our boundaries. And that's probably the biggest thing that has eroded our sovereignty, is when they say that bad men in our boundaries. So that's the terminology they used in the treaty. Bad men in our territory, meaning white people.
Right.
Were acting, committing crimes. At some point in time, they said we didn't have any jurisdiction over that. But they're finding out today. They're finding out that interpretation doesn't work very well, because nobody has jurisdiction over them. They come and they go out of our country. So today, just recently, in the last few years, the Supreme Congress and then the Supreme Court is upholding it. And that is that they're starting to give us that jurisdiction back, saying non-Indians who harm your women can be under your jurisdiction.
Wow.
So that's a little bit of giving us our sovereignty back that we used to always have. If they give us back more pieces of our sovereignty that they've taken away from us, I think we can do a much better job than the federal regulatory agencies that are supposed to be helping us. It's truly the United States government, that's not only the federal agencies, but Congress and the courts as well need to recognize that we as tribes do have the ability to exercise jurisdiction within our boundaries over everybody and everything. But they don't have to stand over our shoulder and say, are you doing a good job? They've done that for so long now, starting to see that we do have the ability to make good laws and to enforce them if they let us. And that's one of the other hurdles that we have.
One of the things, brother, looking and thinking about this is motivation. What is the motivation for all this regulation and jurisdiction? Is it to control our land, as it has? This whole thing, coming to take our land, giving our land away for free or for pennies for homesteaders, the Homestead Act, everything else that has occurred throughout, the last few centuries. The regulatory thing is that we don't have ultimate say over our land. We got to go through BIA, to get things done. And it's not a slam against our relatives that work in BIA, but there's a system that's in place there that makes it restrictive. Just a comment that I have there. I don't know if you have anything more to add there, brother.
Well, again, it's not just the regulatory agencies. Regulatory agencies are governed by laws that Congress passes. So that's that three-part system of government the United States government is set up, which has worked pretty good for them. That is the court system, the judicial system, and the agencies, federal agencies. So it's not just the federal agencies that we have a problem with, it's the federal agencies who have to interpret the laws that who have to put in effect the laws that Congress creates. Well, it's also educating members of Congress that we as tribes have the ability to make our own laws and to be regulated by them.
Thank you. Chairman Archambault, what would you like to see in our relationships with federal agencies change? Do you feel there are elements of jurisdiction that are holding us back? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I just want to say, have a shout out to the kids who are watching. Just because we have to start changing our mindset and saying the best days are not the days that are behind us, but they are the days that are in front of us. And our middle school students that are watching, I encourage you to get an education in engineering or become a scientist or look at becoming a lawyer, technician in wind or solar or geothermal, or even agriculture. We need to have build our own capacity within and get the expertise within so that we can develop these. As far as the government to government or nation to nation relationships, have they held us? Of course, there's a problem with the systemic, all the systems that exist, whether it's school education, law enforcement, safety, business economies. For centuries, there's systemic racism that exists, and that's where the change has to happen. So the regulatory systems have prevented us from developing, but it doesn't mean that we can't look at making changes. Regardless of whatever administration is in place, we are resilient and we come through, whether it's favorable or unfavorable. And we saw a stark contrast when Obama was in office and when Trump was in office and when now Biden is in office. So now today is an opportune time for us to build those nation to nation relationships and address the shortfalls of the systems, of the government systems, and being more pointed and specific to this area in renewable energy. There's opportune time for us to encourage this administration, encourage Congress to extend production tax credits and income tax credits. These are incentives for investors to invest in renewable energy projects, and it makes the projects feasible. But going beyond that and saying we need to, tribes do not realize the benefit of a production tax credit or income tax credit. So let's explore how we can realize that. And if you make those tax credits refundable, let's make a production tax credit refundable, then it makes sense for a tribe to own our wind project, because if you have a tax liability at zero, you don't owe any taxes, but you have a refundable tax credit for owning a renewable projects of $1 million, the government will have to pay us $1 million. So we need to start exploring how to change laws so that we are treated as equal as other non-Indigenous businesses. We should be on every consultation call that the Biden administration is putting out, because it gives us the opportunity to express what the shortfalls are in this government, and it gives us the opportunity to help change, have a long-lasting change with this nation's government, and help us come, I don't like to say benefit, but become equal as all the other entities outside of Indigenous communities. There's a systemic problem that exists, and we have to make a certain effort to make that change. So yeah, I think it's going to be the kids that are behind us, that are coming yet, that's going to be able to take these concepts, these incentives, or these efforts forward that each of the chairmen are talking about.
Thank you, Chairman. So kids, you're listening out there, lawyers, finance, economics, business, government, politics, all the things. We can do all these things. We need all of these other elements, as well as working management and, you know, putting your sweat into things to make what we need to build here at home more possible. I got a great question from the audience. Is one person is asking, what is it that folks can do outside of donations to help us here at Standing Rock? And one thought came to mind is call your senators and talk about some of the things like you had mentioned, Dave, Ron, and Mike. But are there any thoughts out there, you know, among the group here, ideas that folks could do to help support us in ways that aren't just donating to the website? By the way, everyone, donate to the website. We're still working on our development out there on the wind farm. So don't forget to click and give a buck or two. But Chairman.
Two thoughts. I'm going to address what can non-Indians do to assist besides donate. You know, when the No DAPL camp was up, that there were just as many or more non-Indians who stood by our side. And so that was very important, that it wasn't just an Indian movement, if you will, but it was a movement that affected people across this nation. And people come and they stood shoulder to shoulder with us. That's a good thing. There are other events, if you will, that you could stand shoulder to shoulder with us as well too. One of the things that's happened in this country is that we as Indians, the idea of Indians has been to relegate us to the past, that we once were formidable nations and that we don't exist, that the majority of the world doesn't see us in modern terms. They see us in terms 200 years ago. Leathers and feathers, if you will, is their idea of us. And so today, when we stand up and say, we're not your Indian anymore, and the biggest example of that is sports teams. Sports teams want to relegate us or hold us to that image of 200 years ago. That's not who we are today, if you will. Yes, we're their descendants. They are, most definitely. And we will stand up and fight. Yes, we will. But we're much more than that. Mm-hmm. And to continue to use us as mascots continues to hold us down, if you will. That you stand by our side and say, no, we're not your Redskins anymore. How long did it take for the Washington Redskins to finally say, okay, we're not going to use that? Or University of North Dakota and the Fighting Sioux and all the other, so there are still high school teams, there are still college teams, there are still national league teams that use Indians as mascots. And that in and of itself holds us down. You can't relegate us to the past that we're still here. So that's one. The other is, as Joe mentioned, is call your congressman, whether you're a senator, congressman, or even your state senators at state legislators, and talk to them when there are Indian issues that come to the forefront in the legislative body, and make your voice be heard. Say that we support the Native Americans in whatever issue that's coming forward in an act of Congress or a bill before your legislative body, or even in your city council meetings. Let it be understood that you support Indian issues and what it is, the message we're trying to get across. So that's one point I wanted to make. But I also wanted to address the students, both at the middle school students as well as some students at City Hall College, and to say this, that for generations, they took the ability for us to go to school away, ability of choice. They took that away. They always said to us, "You're good with your hands, and so find a vocation, be a carpenter, be a mechanic, never did they tell us that we should go get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and doctorate degrees." It's so wonderful that my daughter now has her master's degree. She's 26 years old. She's got her master's degree. Someday she'll work on her doctorate degree. I have a grandson who's graduating now with his master's, and he's got a job offer. He's going to make more money than his first job offer. he's going to make more money than I make today. So that's a wonderful thing. But I want to emphasize this point, and that is that we traditionally were always business people. We just didn't call it business. We call it trading. So everybody wasn't a great hunter. Everybody wasn't a great horseman. There were people who made bows and arrows better than anybody else. People who made flint knives better than anybody else. People who could track better than anybody else. And we traded those skills. We traded those skills for goods and services. That's called business in today's world. We were always business people, always. You just didn't call it business. That was taken away from us when they put us on the reservation and they reduced the amount of resources that we had to work with. But what resource do we have left that we can utilize besides the land and the wind that we're talking about is your mind. That's right, your mind. That's a resource that they can't take away. And when you educate yourself, or go get an education, they can't take that away from you. You become that business person, if you will, that our ancestors used to be. You could do that. Those are the 2 points that I wanted.
Thank you, Chairman. Say I got lost in that answer. I don't know what else needs to be said. Chairman Faith, do you have anything you'd like to close with?
Joel, just following up on your question, prior to how can we go about getting the word out beyond, a letter campaign sometimes explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it. But again, if anybody beyond the tribal level that supports our concept of the wind turbines and the solar, talk to your locals also, your county commissioners, your state officials, your local cooperatives. Let them know that we're not the enemy. We can compete with them also. This is not a monopolized area. We have that right to compete and create our own system, meaning the energy system in this case. So it's okay to reach out to locals of support and let them understand what we are doing for a better tomorrow here and being self-sufficient. So again, I would say this to the ones listening, and again, thank them for, first of all, for the school for allowing them to be on, is that you're the future. You are the future leaders here at Standing Rock. So be not afraid, be the change. So I'll leave you with that. Chairmans, always good seeing you guys. We need to get together maybe within a month. We'll drag Joe along so he can ask us questions while we eat. I'm just kidding. Everybody that's listening, please, we don't have goodbye in our language, so I'll say again, until we see each other again, in a good way. Stay strong, be safe. It's still a pandemic going on. Don't let your guard down.
Oh, Chairman, I appreciate that. The kids just chimed in. Fanwa Shizi, she's teaching elementary school over there, and she's the chairwoman of our board of directors. We're a women-led board of directors there at Sage, and she says our kids say "Doksha kewa chiankinkte." So you're right in line with what they're about, Chairman Faith. I appreciate your time and all the time of the chairman here today, and look forward to doing it again as we move forward into these discussions. And thank everybody who came to join us on this call. This is a crowdfunding effort. What the monies that have been used for recently was to continue to fund our THPO effort, to fund our workers out there in the field protecting sacred sites, to work on our Met towers, to work on our road construction. And we continue these efforts with Met towers next, and getting that up. So every bit that people help us with goes into us having more ownership and equity into the project. Chairman Archambault, he sits on our board of directors and has been a great guidance in that aspect. And Chairman of Horses Thunder, I visit with him regularly. He's my brother. Mom says, have you talked to your brother lately? I better listen to what's happening there. And Chairman Faith, your leadership in this time has been exemplary. And I look forward to doing this again. So with everyone out there, Doksha ke wachiankte, Pilame apelo ichichi apelo, ichichi api, how, metakyo ase.